Hi, it's Chris Grimm, and this is Deep Work Fast. Every week, I come on and give you ideas, concepts, and tools to help you be the best you can be in all the roles that you play at work and at home, right? Boss, team member, coworker, parent, partner, you name it. I want you to be great all the time, so no pressure. Anyway, this week, I wrote a blog and also am going to talk to you today about some concepts that I think are woven together beautifully in a book called Safe to Great. But first, let's talk about why, and then we'll get into the what. So, you could be one of the people, and if you haven't said it to me, you might be thinking it, which is when you hear the term psychological safety, maybe you eye roll. Or you think, what the heck is that? How do I actually do that in real life? That is common. Maybe you hear growth mindset and also eye roll or say to me, you know who you are. That sounds fluffy. What is that going to do? It's not very practical. We don't have time for that. I've heard all those things. All of these terms and concepts that are at the moment kind of the trending, most, not just popular, but most written about, talked about on podcasts. They're in business books, etc. And what I find oftentimes in my coaching, but also in my interactions with many of you and your teams, if I have the privilege of doing that, is that these ideas for many people sound good, but many of you are saying the same thing, right? You can read books about it, you can read blogs about it, you can hear me talk about it, but putting it into practice on a day-to-day basis is not always easy. Like I mentioned before, we know you're time starved. I know you don't have time to learn new things and always put them into practice in a way that feels useful immediately. So I am speaking to you as a person who understands the reality of being a manager or a leader, big business, small business, it kind of doesn't matter, right? You need your people, your team, and maybe even the people around you in the other teams to do their stuff, right? We need them to do work. We need them to achieve things together. And of course, we need that to be done faster and better than we ever have. And of course, we have hybrid work environment, which has created still for many people a challenge because we don't know people in the same way if we've never met them in person. And if we only have meetings in a virtual environment, we don't always understand people's tell signs. We don't know their body language, etc. So these ideas have come forth. They're very strong messaging. And I think in the workplace, in many workplaces, there's a push to, have more trust and respect and psychological safety, like I said, in these ideas. And often people just don't know how to put it into practice. So what I thought I would bring you this week in our blog, I did just a summary of some key ideas. But I want to talk to you today about this book. Like, I know you're going to say, I don't have time for a book. So I don't know this man, Skip Bowman, so I'm not getting paid to do this. I really do believe that what he has created here is a contemporary playbook for leaders and managers. It doesn't matter how many people. You might be a leader of thousands of people. You might be a manager who you supervise one or two people. There's a lot of useful things in here. It's called Safe to Great, as you can see, the new psychology of leadership. This is really new. I think it came out last year. It's at least less than 2 years old. Here's the great news for you. He takes all these ideas that I've been talking to you about, and I'm going to talk through the key ones I want you to pay attention to. This isn't a novel or a book that it's not boring, first of all. That's good news. And it's more of a playbook. And what I mean by that is he's putting all these ideas together in a really easy to understand format. So it's not a book that wants to spend the whole book talking to you about psychological safety. Psychological safety is one strategy that he puts together with growth mindset, with something called aiming high. You may have heard me talk about this before. Not surprising, a practical way of talking about aim high is balancing risk with high ambitions, with challenging goals, with bold, hairy, audacious goals. We all use different terminology when we set goals that for many people feel like a challenge or potentially unrealistic, and there's risk associated with it. So that is called aiming high. I did not make that up, so if you don't like it, sorry. But it's a term and it's used, and I want you to understand it, and I want you to know when to do it, and I want you to do it well. Also, collaboration. Now, not a new word, not a new ask, but I will tell you, it seems in most companies that we're working in that we need more collaboration. We need it to be less transactional than it's ever been before, right? So, teamwork in many organizations for a really long time worked just fine when it was transactional. What I mean by that is I do my stuff, you do your stuff. They are complementary, but we don't really have to overlap very much. And I can do my stuff without you. I think those days are almost gone for most teams and most people. We're so linked with each other, and our success is often in organizations, even if organizations don't do a great job of articulating shared accountability or overlaps, which I harp on all the time. If I coach you, you know that. Collaboration now, really needs people and teams to work together in concert with each other. Right? Like we're an orchestra and we need all the instruments to be tuned and playing the same song, even though we got drummers and trumpet players and violins. You get what I'm saying. So I'm going to come back to this book because he takes these concepts, psychological safety, growth mindset, aiming high, collaboration, and he puts them together, anchoring them together really well, and explains the practical reasons why you would do this, why you need all those things, how to do them together. I've been giving this book to new managers. I've been giving it to leaders who have been leaders for a long time and yet are feeling since the pandemic that leading has changed, because it has. So great playbook. Like I said, he's not paying me to tell you this. I really am just bringing you this resource because, frankly, you shouldn't have to wait for your coaching appointment or for someone like me to facilitate learning on your team for you to put these ideas into action. You need them now, and you need them in a way that doesn't feel complicated. And of course, I want you to get over that kind of feeling like, oh God, another thing, because I'm with a lot of teams, and I do understand that sometimes these concepts or ideas feel like I don't really know what it is. I don't know how to do it. Introducing it to my team might mean we have to take time away from work to learn it, and then it might not work anyway. Real life. So if that's you, I was really looking for resources that could help you kind of learn fast and then create a framework so that you and your team could see all of these ideas, know how and when they apply to real life for you in context. Like, are you creating a lot of change? Are you in the middle of transformation? Are you at the end of a big change? Is your business growing? Is your business declining? Are you launching new products, right? Whatever it is, put it in context and use these ideas. And this playbook can help you. The other thing that I want to just kind of plant some seeds for you is that he does a nice job. He has a model. All the words start with A. You can blame Skip for this. But it's easy to understand and important for a team, I think, to have some shared language and often a framework so that you can start to say, okay, wait, why are we doing all these things? How is it supposed to look and feel when all of these things are working in concert together? Like if I put growth mindset and psychological safety to work on my team so that we can aim high and collaborate better together on a regular basis. If we want to do all of those things well and we actually want different business outcomes and maybe different behavior or ways of working, how do we do that on a regular basis in an organized way so that we don't have these concepts floating around and then each person is applying them differently? So he has a nice simple model. Like I said, it has 4 A's. Awareness. I'm going to talk about them in a minute and why it applies to you and your team and why this is a simple framework that everybody should get, like in an hour or less. I promise you. Awareness, acceptance, action, acceleration. Let me say it one more time. It's in the blog too. So if you don't want to write it down, you don't want to remember this, grab that blog. Heather, thank you. Put it in the chat. She also put a link to this book in the chat. So making it easy for you. Anyway, back to the 4 A's. Awareness, acceptance, action, acceleration. So you should want all of those things. Your team should want all of those things. And here's why. Awareness is around getting grounded in reality. Many teams, could be yours, think about this, often are not operating in reality. They're often operating in the future or the past and don't spend enough time aligning on what is actually real right now. We also have people, you know who you are, who don't like reality. And so we kind of skip that, or we don't agree with it, or we don't want to talk about it, whatever that is. So a part of awareness is getting super clear on the business realities that we are dealing with at the moment, but also having an understanding of your own strengths and weaknesses, of the team's strengths and weaknesses, aware of the gaps that might exist, right? Like that's really important. And I find that teams don't always have deep awareness of that. And sometimes when they do get a glimpse of reality, if it's hard to talk about because we don't want it, it gets swept under the rug, or we pretend so that the boss isn't mad, or your boss's boss is not mad, or whatever, right? So number one, awareness, and that's an awareness of reality. And whatever time it takes to get everybody on the same page with what that is. And then the number 2 thing is acceptance of reality. And I mean a deep acceptance. Like we all get that this is real. We all now are aligned on what are real problems, what are things that are maybe in our way from reaching our goals. We're going to agree or find a way to agree on what data is the most accurate in giving us this picture of reality so that we can move forward together, making the decisions that we need to make. And that comes from accepting. It also means that you have to accept where there are skill gaps, specifically if your organization is changing. And this is really important. So I just want to spend a minute here and get something clear in your mind, maybe even plant a seed. And if you and I talk on a regular basis, I'm happy to revisit this with you because it's really important. Acceptance is also understanding where there is incompetence. I'm not saying that as an insult. I am saying it as we as adults, anytime we're making change, right? The new things of the future. So whether that's a new software program or a new process or restructuring and having your org work in a new way. The future presents for each of us either for a short period of time or a long period of time, a period of conscious incompetence. It's where we know we don't know everything. It's where we're in those moments where we see the change coming and there's so much uncertainty that we feel insecure potentially, maybe even a little afraid, because we don't know. And as adults, we want to feel confident and we want to feel secure. And we want to feel competent. And there are always moments where that's not going to be true. So part of acceptance is actually having those conversations. That's why you need psychological safety, by the way. There's putting that in a practical way. If the team's not safe enough, if your relationship with your employees or with your coworkers doesn't feel safe, then people are not going to want to admit that they feel consciously incompetent. Like, I'm afraid of that. I don't know if I'm ever going to learn how to do that well. Ooh, the new job. It's kind of exciting, but there's at least 10 things on that list that I've never done before. Consciously incompetent. So part of acceptance is allowing the space for everybody to understand that. And if we have whole teams and groups of people who things are changing for, and they haven't had the development, or at least they don't even know what's coming, and so they're all feeling worried, acceptance is understanding that that exists in our organization, that exists on our team, that exists maybe in our relationship. If I'm your boss and you're coming to me and you're saying that, now I have to figure out how to do that. How am I going to help close that gap? We want everybody in our organization, if they're on your payroll, you want them showing up every day and being able to contribute. Why else would you be paying them? So if we make change and we don't create readiness for that, if we don't help people at least have a path to competence, well, that's when we have resistance to change, but we also have a lot of risk on the other side of our change. And of course, we're aiming high, remember? So we want to mitigate that risk so that we can be ambitious about our change because we've planned for it. We have our eyes wide open. We know what's going to happen and we know how people are going to navigate it because we're doing it on purpose, right? We're aware and we accept it. The next thing is action. And it's action planning so that we can, like I said, close the gaps, so that we can predictably aim high, collaborate with each other, and we can predictably start to see outcomes. I always say, if I coach you, you've heard me say this, we want early wins. Why do we want early wins? Well, because we want everybody in the system to start to see something positive related to the change that we're creating. We don't want everything to be a slog. We don't want everything to feel bad, right? That's bad because the longer we sustain people feeling bad and unsure or unable to take action, morale goes down, engagement goes down, and then you start to lose people mentally, and then maybe you lose them physically. That's expensive, by the way. Not only is it just miserable. Let's not do that. We want to take the action we need to close the gaps and get everybody working together as best we can. The last thing is acceleration. And of course, all of you, every time, tell me everything needs to move faster. It's just a common theme with leaders and managers. We just need more and we need faster. So if you want acceleration, well, we don't really get that from people with low morale, low engagement, who are feeling incompetent. They don't move fast. And if they do, they're leaving you. They're running away. They're not staying and doing the things that you need them to do the way you need them to do that. So awareness, acceptance, action, acceleration. You need all these things. These are highly practical ideas, and they are ways for you to think about so that these ideas, like I said in the playbook, psychological safety, growth mindset, aiming high, collaboration, and more. All of them are in here. I promise these things will make a difference for you and your team pretty quickly. And now you have a way of simplifying these ideas that maybe felt overwhelming or annoying to you before today. If you need help, you know where to find me. If you need to rewatch this, it will be on YouTube forever and on Spotify forever. So thanks for hanging in there with me every week. I hope you are using these ideas and tools instead of wishing that things were easier. or slower, or all the things that are just not going to happen, right? So you and your team need the tools for a modern workplace, and that's what I'm trying to do here. So grab this book, grab the blog, and I'll see you next week on Deep Work Fast.